Hello there, it's Lee. Well, this video here is going to be, as I usually do it, just on the spot, no editing, comes as it comes. And it was actually at the request of somebody for the topic, and I wish to mention to anyone watching, some of the people who are viewers, more or less following some of what I do. I appreciate it very much, and the good feedback. And to whomever else at random completely, I wish to say that if you like my style of video or my approach, my way of attempting to explain things from my opinion, well, merci. You can make requests to videos too, and I can see if I can come up with something or have a valid opinion on it. As it is, I guess, with anything, it's best for us to, well, I guess we are more authentic when we have a little bit of experience with something as opposed to just coming up with a random opinion like that. So I don't usually like to make a video unless I have, the personal experience with it. But for this particular request, I do. And this deals with social anxiety and how to find good, solid friends and like-minded persons. Especially if you're watching videos like mine and similar persons and their works. If we want to consider ourselves, for lack of a better word, New Age types, or those who are trying to, doing our best to go on the forefront of mind and heart and find the balance, find the truth, find the light, find life and the meaning thereof of existence, well, then these are the sort of things that we're into. And I can say first off the bat that I really do personally know what it's like to have a little bit of social anxiety. I'm much more calm now and, relaxed around people, but I had a period where, it's funny because I didn't have it for a long time, and then, well, yes and no, that's not true. I should rephrase that. I should say that it got worse at a certain point. So let me just interject and fix what I was going to say. When I was a youth, like many people who are finding themselves to be a little more spiritual or a little more, just, I don't know, different, not necessarily going with the flow of things, that you find yourself a little bit in a self-put position of outcast, or a little bit shy, or a little bit a little bit distant from things, because you don't necessarily feel the vibe as easily as others do. So I was a kid that was sort of shy in class, and I often sat at the back and I was doodling or writing things down, not always paying attention to the class as much as some others might have been. That was just the kind of person that I was, and I know that a lot of people are like that, especially those who are trying to find, looking for the awakening, looking for, I want to call it enlightenment, looking for the new age, then looking for the next step sort of thing. It's common to have anxieties, and I want to get into something at length. And I'm going to suggest a few things. Some people, this might be a shock or not, or it might be a new thing or not. But I want to suggest a thing or two that may be the basis and reason why some of these things just are, apart from what I already said in my introduction. So, pardon my long intro, but it always goes like that. I never know how to start a video, or finish it for that matter. But hoping to get into the meat. So, blessed be. And let's begin. Well, social anxiety, in this era where there is a tangible, palpable, permeating spirit, as it were, promoting insecurities, or rather promoting certain expectations, and when we do not follow the expectations, then what happens is we end up internalizing it and saying, is there something wrong with me, as opposed to saying, well, perhaps what is manifested out there, maybe there's something wrong with that. And then, of course, even that which is manifested is such because of what was inside someone. So, when we are in a position where we find ourselves a little bit awkward or distant, it's because, well, first of all, we are a bit different from the norm of expectations, perhaps. We have to keep in mind, my friends, that a lot of the time there are those who have influences and who are greedy persons, and who are, well, animated, as it were, of darkness, which is mainly selfishness, greed, the selfish fear of self-preservation, which is my best explanation of what we call it, an evil or a lost person. It's not evil, it's more lost. It's someone that has the symptoms of that is because they have an absence. When someone has an absence, and what it all comes down to, and the main point of my video, it does come down to a good level of self-acceptance. And it is very difficult to be in a world where it seems that we are different than others. Like in my family, my father's side, mother's side, I'm one of the spiritual oddballs, as they'll call me, to my face or not to my face, but I'm that guy. They call me the black sheep. I like to hope I'm the white sheep sometimes. I rather would hope I'm the white sheep. Maybe it's the same for you. Now I know that it can be difficult finding friends, forming relationships when you are of that sort of disposition, and you see that a lot of people don't really seem to be. We have to understand though that more often than not, when somebody is following the whims of the world, listening to the influences, whatever's out there in pop culture and this and that and the other, that they are very much afraid to not do so. It's like you take, and I'm not really picking on anyone, I know what it's like, different past lives and such, we have all been these people, so it's not about comparing and competing. Comparison and competition is the scourge of the world, and it's creating all sorts of division and problems. But when we stop doing this and we look for the unity, what we have to do is realize, first and foremost, and Buddhists would tell you, Druids would tell you, whoever, that the nature is common. These are natural things, these are natural processes that people are going through. At a certain point, each and every single soul will get to the point where they stop just running by emotions and desires and, oh, that's an interesting possible thing, and stop and take a look at the internal nature and say, why is it like that? Why? Instead, you know what I mean? Instead of just going to something like that. So what we can understand from this is the inclinations are there because there are desires present, there are insecurities there. But when it's not to say everything that's pop culture is bad, it's not. But it's when we're in the position of trying to find something more substantial, trying to find, okay, the world as it is and this and that, but what about the above? What about the purposes? What about the beyond? What about the before and the after? So when we are in this position, when we're young especially, we are confused because we're born and we have amnesia as anyone does. And when we're born, then we feel we're not really part of this place. We're not really to belong here so much. We're not really here to just do that which is out there and which is common. We're here for something perhaps a little bit different. But it doesn't mean we are not to enjoy life and do some things like you can do, like for me, I do things that are normal enough, even despite my being the spiritual oddball kind of guy, or the hippie as some people like to call me. But I like to simply think, well, your idea of me is based upon, what conclusion that comes from what, though? What is the source of it? So the first thing to ask is if you're in that position where you feel a little bit of social anxiety, or you're not really belonging as easily, or in the words of Kurt Cobain, I wish I was like you, easily amused. Like, we're not of that kind. If you feel like you're like that, and there are a lot of people like that, and in fact most people who are on the, let us say, spiritual echelon or something like that, we're often going to have very, very much so a difficult lifetime, difficult before it becomes pleasant and relaxed. When we're young, we are preyed upon very viciously. Our parents do what they can, they're doing their best. Even if you didn't have the best upbringing in the world, well, who does really? But the point is, parents do the best they can, but then it's society and the world that's trying to make money and feed off of the insecurities of people. The media, the Hollywood and all this stuff, it's really, look at the pop culture now. They take these, I don't want to make fun of anyone, but it's like taking these certain individuals, however emotionally balanced or unbalanced they may be, and putting them as the model to follow, and then this person is, in my opinion, many of them just look a little bit out of balance. They look a little bit out of whack. And not everybody, I'm not making fun of anyone's favorite pop star or something, but what I'm saying is, by saying that, the background of that, the sole cause of that, the purpose of why that is popular is because there are individuals who want to manipulate and make money or make some kind of gain off of the insecurities of people. So yes, by saying that, especially when we're young, there are all these expectancies, and then when we don't follow it, those who do follow the expectancies, with the influences, the promptings, look at you like there's something wrong with you. So then again, you feel shy, you don't want to talk in class or be a, this and that, show off in public or something like that, right? Some whatever examples. So this can be a little bit difficult. But for all that, for all the self-berating we may do and the beating ourselves up, here's the good news. The good news is there are people, and a very nice chunk of them, who are very much, well, let me say this, whoever whoever you are, whomsoever you may be, there are very many people just like you. It doesn't matter who you are. Even the most eccentric, even the most whatever, shy or boxed off, you know what? There are lots of people. Problem is, that sort of mentality or that level of soul is not that which is in the limelight, in the spotlight. So it is expected to not be normal, but you know what? All of us are insecure to whatever level. All of us are self-doubting. All of us can play the good or the bad depending on a situation. All of us can act brashly or emotionally quickly sometimes. All of us have good ideas and maybe some bad ideas. Like I said, it's all common. The good news is there are people that are very similar to you, whoever you are watching the video. Even if you feel very isolated, even if you've done self-isolation, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to not even want to go outside. I know what it's like to spend, I think one time the most I ever did was literally about 2 weeks in my apartment. This was when I was early to mid-20s. I spent 2 weeks in my apartment without even going outside at all. And I've heard stories of people doing, obviously for a lot longer. I remember, if anyone knows this guy, Chris Cornell, who was the lead singer for Soundgarden, and then he went to do Audioslave and the solo project. Anyway, a likable guy with the Seattle grunge movement. Anyways, I believe that Chris Cornell had said that he had spent something up to the effect of a whole year where he did not go outside even once. But now look, the guy did some self-acceptance, decided to channel his energies, become a singer, and voila. So that success story, as it were, is just to show that when we are spending time, see, that's just it. A lot of people are terrified to spend time alone. Spending time alone is not a bad thing. Spending too much time alone can certainly be a bad thing. If you isolate yourself so much that you have no personal relationships at all, and you end up having too many conversations to yourself, or you end up harming yourself in some way, it doesn't mean that is a necessary outcome, or a necessitated outcome, because it's not. But it can happen, especially when we're young. Now, similarly, there are, just to add this little interjection on the side, there are some people who spend a lot of time alone, don't have a problem at all. There are some monks, Eastern or Western philosophy doesn't matter, they spend years alone. I remember a story of monks and yogis and such living in caves for years on end, and they didn't have a problem, because their prime motive, the motivating factor in them was to find enlightenment. So if we're here, and here's what I want to say then, if we're spending a lot of time alone, and we're not feeding ourselves with good words, with good ideas, with good thoughts, with good notions that can become actions, manifested actions to make our souls feel happy and content and full, like the idea of doing something meaningful with our time here, then if we don't do that, and we're doing the opposite, beating ourselves up, feeling the fear and recycling the fear and revolving it around, almost like playing Russian roulette with ourselves in a way, like, out of all these dangerous ideas, which one am I looking at today? And it just becomes an ugly cycle. So the power of mind is very important, and the power of soul's intention. And it's one and the same. When the mind and the heart are one, that is the enlightenment. When they're still arguing with each other, then there's going to be stress up here, there's going to be stress on the heart, there's going to be some kind of ugly mood. But to put the two into one, and to have positive outlook and an idea and intention, and then to manifest it. So this is like saying the opposite, feeding yourself with good music and good projects and good entertainment as opposed to negative things. Because we're all very good at beating ourselves up, but we all are also very good at raising ourselves up too. And the older we get, the easier it becomes. Now, to put this in, to find people that are like-minded, yes, indeed, when we are of the different vibe, when we are a more spiritual, in our intention and in our desires, a more spiritual echelon, then it takes great courage to do this, because we know that there can be some attacks from people verbally, mainly verbally, manipulations and things, or whatever manner of aggression. But that aggression, we have to know, we can't take it personal. That aggression that comes from somebody else is dealing with their own very deep-seated, deep-rooted insecurities. But those insecurities, again, they are common. So if one person can be healed and be happy and enlightened and this and that, so can another. If one person can be a jokester and a clown, so can another. If one person can be sad, so can another. And look all around us, that's exactly the case. So it's never to take it personal. Now, when we're trying to find like-minded persons, the question posed to me was, is there something we can do to sort of attract this? Well, yes, there is. The main thing we can do to attract like-minded persons and try to create healthy relationships with similar souls is to have the idea to do so, have the want to do so, to be open to do so, and even take a little step or two to do so. Because it is out there. They are out there. I imagine most people watching my video right now, like my videos don't have, huge thousands and thousands of views. Maybe the very odd one. But it's because, there are reasons of what is in the limelight and what is not. But we create these little families, as it were, little networks of people that are of a similar vibe. And if only the videos that are talking about this sort of thing were right out there in the public. If only these things were taught in school, the nature of being. But anyway, alas. But yes, in order to find like-minded, be in a positive state in which to receive it. Because I know what it's like very much to spend weekend after weekend. Like, yeah, I've always had friends here and there, sure, but oftentimes it was just maybe one or two people and then nobody else. And in a way, yeah, I did it to myself. I just was out taking long walks, whether in public or by nature, and I was just thinking and being and feeling different. But I was sort of closed off. I didn't really have a happy face, or I didn't really have an open arm invitation sort of thing, or I wasn't in a mood or mode. And notice how the words are similar. I wasn't in a mood or a mode to reach out to someone. But the odd time it would happen. The odd time, even without looking, it would still happen. I would bump into the odd person along the river, like on the parkways and such, and just like mine just knew it by the eyes, and just sometimes even a hello, sometimes even a conversation. The thing is, even when you're not looking yet, it can happen. But the problem can be, where do you go? Like, oof, you can think of it like, and if you're trying to find a good friend or two, if you're trying to find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, trying to find a partner, if you're trying to find just a really good connection in general, that is often the question that comes, where do I go? Like, we can go online, and certainly you can find like-minded people, but then when you want it in the flesh, as it were, like face to face, that can be strange too, because it's like, can I just go to a coffee shop right there and be guaranteed to find someone? And even if there is someone, unbeknownst to me or not, right, would I even have the guts to approach or to give the invitation? Like, it's the social anxieties are a lot deeper than we think, because it's not about, oh, maybe it's just me and a few. It's actually everybody is affected by it. You go downtown, for example, or anywhere where there's a group of people, like a good amount, and you feel the vibes. You feel the childlike wonder. You feel the fear and insecurities, and you feel the questionings. You feel the doubts. You feel the humors. You feel all the energy, even if no words are being said. You feel all the energy. You also feel how strange and awkward it is. It can be strange and awkward, for example, when, like, there's a lot of people, let's just say for this example, because I've been in this situation a lot. When I was downtown in Ottawa, and walkways crossing the road at red lights and such, lots of people grouped up at it. When everything's silent for a moment, and we all are wondering, like, what do we think? What are we thinking? And people checking each other out, this and that, and it's like there's a tangible awkwardness. We're not all smiling at each other. We're not all best friends. We're all skeptical. We're in a very skeptical world, and we don't need to be. So you see, social anxiety is a very big thing, bigger problem than we might look at. But at the same time, the solution of it is also maybe easier than we think. But again, it takes a person that's going to find some inner strength to not be shy, to start something, to motivate something, or to be an example. I like to call myself a Hayoka. That's excuse me, I believe it's a Lakota term. It comes from the Native Americans, meaning sort of to the effect of a backwards walking teacher, a backwards walking deliberate fool. Meaning, you could stay calm and safe and in your shell, but that doesn't appeal to you. And if you go out, you know that there's going to be some mockery or something, but you're going to do it anyway. And you're even going to show people an example of them by showing a mirror, for example, or doing something awkward to exaggerate or accentuate the point. Now, I don't really do it in public so much to say, but on my video, I certainly don't mind making a fool of myself, because at this point I've come to the age of, well, what does it matter? And then you can ask yourself that, well, if I'm in a body for a short period of time anyway, if I'm immortal anyway, if I'm feeling so bad, do I want to spend that was one of the key teachings of Buddhism. Well, you are mortal anyway, you are such and such anyway. Do you want to be that sad and downtrodden, or do you want to try and be that happy and enlightened, because if I'm gonna die anyway, or this and that, or if it's not permanent, and it's temporary to begin with, well then what am I waiting for? Now, again, I know what it's like for personally to have an idea. Oh, like especially when I was single, for example, too. Like when I wanted to find a girlfriend, I was just saying, well, how do I meet someone like me? You know, I'm a little bit spiritual oddball or whatever. This is the word of the world. It doesn't mean that was actually the case, right? But the world could label us certain ways, but that doesn't mean that we are these things. Whose opinion is correct? You know, we're bouncing off each other's insecurities like ping pong. But I was saying to myself, well, being the odd guy that I am, or being different that I am, well, how do I know, where to look? So even though my heart desired something, I was in conflict because my mind was feeding my heart bad ideas, and the doubts start going, the cycles of thoughts start going, and then I was in conflict. So like I was saying, 5-10 minutes ago, when you are not in the open invitation or in the position to receive it, then if we are putting on a mask of, people be distant or I'm skeptical also, then it's hard to make an invitation or an opening even when there could be. But when we desire it and we truly mean it, and our mind and our heart are going to work for it to meet like-minded, then it does happen. It could be even a small matter of taking the tiniest step, because no matter who you are, there are many others who have the same hobbies or interests, right? Like for example, let's say you're interested in art, painting and stuff, and then, well, you want to find like-minded people who are not just artists, but who are of the same spiritual vibe. Let's just say you like abstract art or something like that, or still life even, then you could find people that are like that. Well, where would you go? You see, we often forget that we do have the answers ourselves, but maybe just sometimes a little prompting, because I know what that's like too. Anyway, it is difficult, but it doesn't need to be more difficult than it has to be, and we have to remind ourselves not to exaggerate something beyond, like the old saying is, make a mountain out of a molehill. We have the ability to create our reality, to create our future, to create our happiness, and we can believe it or not, but we are our own worst enemy. And if we are keeping ourselves in a certain way, we have to find out the root cause and the means of it. But then when we realize that it's a common thing that many people are having, then we can nurture it. You see, we often are taught that we should deny our pain or feed our pain with this gratification. I feel like crap, I'll have some ice cream. I feel this way, I'll go out and just do a bike ride or do a jog and get my energy out. Not that exercise is bad or ice cream is bad per se, but I'm saying we are often not nurturing our pain in a good, healthy way, that there becomes a truly permanent outcome. You can still have ice cream and exercise, but want to be happy and do it instead of grumpy and do it. So to say, you know what I mean? So that's just it. If we want to find like-minded people, well, internet's huge. It doesn't mean you can trust everybody, certainly not. I mean, even sometimes even people that we think we have a connection with or an opening, it's still there's skepticism there and such, but we can test the waters and make a little procedure. It can take great courage to make a small step, but even just making a small step. There was some lady athlete, what did she say? Do something every day that scares you. Well, maybe not whether or not we do it every day or do a lot every day, but even if we can challenge ourselves a little bit, even just the smallest, even a small step within the confinements, so to speak, of a safety net or something like that, that, okay, I tried, but now I went too far, but now I'm within my limits, so I'm going to just step back and take a breath. Like, take little steps in order to overcome the anxiety. And again, it all really often comes down to the self-acceptance. When we don't like ourselves, or when we doubt ourselves, or when we feel different to the point, it can be ands or ors, but feeling different to the point where self-isolation or condemning the world, because I know I wasn't really that much of a harsh guy, but I went through a period where I was like, screw this, the world sucks and they're all damned and this and that, and I felt, like I didn't feel that I was perfect either, but I was saying like, ew, but then with more application of thought, with more opening of heart to understand the reason why it's like that, then I said, well, yes, these are common levels of soul existence, these are themes, these are rides we're taking out of mind and heart. And when you think about it enough, and your heart can align with those thoughts enough, vice versa, when we understand the root cause, then we understand the nature, and the nature is one. always. It's not about believing it or not. It just, what is, and it is. Well, I don't want to make the video too long, but just some final words on that. We don't need to feel that we are that different from anyone else, because we're not. There are some of us who have the bravery and the reality, the awareness, the awakeness, as one of my friends used to, she used to say that word, the awakeness, to realize that feeling different can make you feel isolated, dejected, rejected sometimes. And yet, when we are, again, when we're taking a personal beating or something, when we're agreeing with it, oh, I'm different, therefore I should feel bad or something. No. Rather, what stands out is when we can give ourselves the confidence to say, okay, I don't mind being different. And instead of being downtrodden or agreeing with someone's mockery, I can just give a gentle wall, a gentle shield, and say, be that as it may, and yet, for all that, I'm happy and content. See, that's a great victory, because that gives a witness, that gives a lesson to anyone or a group of persons. It gives them a lesson of bravery, because it's easy to have 10 people laughing at one person, but if the one person agrees with them, then then you're sort of allowing the bullying to come. Or you can stand with the level of defiance and just say, you know what you think about me is your problem, and my intentions aren't bad to anyone. Why? Ask yourselves why you have that hatred. When we don't take it personal, in a sense of, oh, it's just me, when we take it personal, meaning it's them and me and everyone, then we have sort of this, I don't want to say cessation, but then we have sort of the gentle pause, the break in between, where there's a moment of suspense where someone somewhere is going to go, oh, even if it's just subconscious, someone else who felt the social anxiety is going to say, oh, maybe I don't have to. Now, I have a good friend or two that have posed those questions to me also, dealing with, well, yeah, I've lost some friends now that I've been more myself. Or I've followed this path and it bothered them. They didn't want to have the thoughts of it. They didn't want to think about it. And I did. And I want to talk about these things, but they don't. And because of that, now there's a little bit of a schism or a little bit of a discomfort or something like that, right? Well, you know what? We can compromise and be diplomatic to varying degrees, but there comes a point where, you know what? If you have a friendship with someone and it's not doing either of you any good, well, maybe you should just gently part ways. Maybe it's for the best. It doesn't mean you have to carry it like a burden or like a wound. It just means, well, if that was bringing myself down and the person down and creating conflict, if we couldn't make a resolution, well then let's gently put it aside. I've had an experience or two where I've had that with someone, and then later on, after some years passed, got back together and like, oh, well, why did we say that to each other? That was so dumb. And best friends again. So these things also happen. Nonetheless, well, there you go. Final thoughts, like my post script sort of thing, is that if you want to find like-minded, be open and don't be in a position again where you're desiring it, but you're at the same time self-contradicting and against it. I want it, but not really. I want it, but not today. I'll be open-armed, but only a little bit. Like, yeah, we're going to be cautious, but by desiring it, by pulling it to you, every single soul here and elsewhere is a magnet. They are a product of their own thoughts and desires. So when we think something, we want something, we're open to it, we can get it. Do an experiment with yourself. Just try an experiment with yourself. It's such a simple thing to try, and I've done it. It's not an experiment as if you're suspended and you don't care, but it's an experiment it's reality, right? Like I would go to, and here's an example, I could go to a coffee shop or something like I'm not saying go spend $500, but go to a store or go somewhere in public where you have to, have a face-to-face relation, and instead of being like, try something, try it, be depressed and say, yeah, thanks, okay. Try that and see the reaction and energy, and then, I'm not saying be a spaz or something like that, but go and try the same situation, being yourself and happy. Hey, how's it going, and hey, thanks, like, try with a smile, see how we all feed and rebound energy off each other, and being open and catching someone's eye the right way, maybe great something happens. One of my best friends to the day, I love this guy to death, my friend Musa. How I met him, the guy was working at a grocery store right down my street when I was in Ottawa. and I would go there often because it was very close, like literally within like a block and a half walk. It was awesome. Anyway, I just went there, and he was at the cash one line. Like he did various shifts, and he got promoted and this and that before he ended up leaving that place. But at that time, he was just a clerk. So I just something about him. I just said, didn't look like a spiritual dude. Maybe something about his aura, about his eyes. I just thought he was a nice gentleman. And I just said, yeah, hey, thanks, bro. And like we just called each other bro right off the bat. And then I saw him a few more times at the store, and then we just started hanging out, out of his work. I'm like, well, I just came here to buy, a little drink and this and that. Like, the guy was finishing. I'm like, well, hey, we want to go and chat about stuff on the park, man? He's like, sure. And then, like what, 13 years later, we're like, some of the best buddies in the world. So that's just, it was a random, almost like it was fate, but it was just like a random, my desire just to be friendly and say, hey, bro. And sometimes it's that simple. And my friend Musa, he's extremely like mine. We're both these, well, in our good days, we're just these chillax, lazy, hippie, artist kind of dudes, and just get along famously. It's awesome. And, that was just a random thing. And that's me giving a personal experience about myself, personal thing. But, I mean, that can be anybody's reality. It can be as simple as that. It can also work for if you're trying to find a member for like a opposite sex, or well, if you're gay, well, so be it. If you're trying to find a partner in a relationship that way, the same kind of thing can happen too. And it can be online. You know what? I met my wife online at a little dating site. I went all out. I decided, you know what? I'm going to write a few paragraphs instead of just like a short sentence. I'm going to write a few paragraphs and say a lot. And if it scares away a whole bunch of girls, great. But if it attracts the right one, awesome. Because I was very spiritual and very much myself on the ad. And voila, I met my wife. Now, we've had some ups and downs. Kids and fatigue have been hard on us, but even after all this, we still get along great. Even after some stuff, we get along great. C'est la vie, C'est la vie. And yes, sometimes, and as a side note, sometimes a relationship is a bit of work when, something happens. A lot of times it's, when we're dealing with our personal problems, we're not creating friendship with others. We're repelling instead of attracting. We're not making if we're feeling wrong, or bad, or having a sad day or something, we have to try to remind ourselves to create a moment of diplomacy where we can talk about or get it out, or be quick to apologize, and be quick to forgive too, and make things work. Because sometimes we could be in a bad mood, something irks us, we could say something bad, or someone could say something else, so we could misinterpret, and then there's a schism where it didn't need to be. So what I'm saying, even if you already have good friends, and even if you already have a lover and this and that, as a side note to this video's topic, let's be careful how we manage our relationships too, because good connections should be kept, and bad ones perhaps should be like a wolf if they can't be fixed. But again, intention here and attention here, or attention. Oh yeah, attention. Pay attention. Intention here and attentive here. And that can be a very nice way to meet like-minded people, to create friendships, to find them. I mean, I've had the pleasure of finding some extremely good friends. I mean, these are friends I've never even met, but we met online, and you guys know who you are who are watching this. Whether we do long emails and personal messages and such, or whether just short little polite sentences, when the connection of love and light is there, it's there and it's obvious. And behold, some of you, we're writing each other to the day even after a couple of years and such. And since I started YouTube, I'm very grateful. I think that's amazing. So even distance does, we can still have amazing friendships, because perhaps from past lives, yeah, we do know each other, and perhaps in the future we are going to be great buddies again. So, anything's possible. So those are my words. Again, hope it helps. It's hard. I always want to say way too much in a video, and then it ends up going to 20 or 30 minutes, and I still don't feel that it's enough. So it is what it is. But yeah, take that as you will. And again, I'm free to take requests for videos if anyone has any ideas or anything that they want to know. Doesn't mean I have the answer, but I certainly do care, and I will give a sincere effort to give an opinion. And we all do teach each other. This is this reciprocating thing, and we all have the ability. This was a wise saying from the Chinese sages like Lao Tzu, and that the wisest person must remind themselves always, even if they want to assume that they're a teacher or not, but to always be a student. This will keep you humble and in perspective and realistic, because no one has everything. And a beautiful Buddhist quote was this: remember always, apart from what you want and your thoughts, your desire, and your self-preservation, but remember that you are also always part of other people's dream. So when we can put ourselves in someone else's shoes, this is a society of competition and degrading and doubting and all sorts of nonsense, comparisons and mockery where it does not need to be. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes will cease all the mockery and all the things and just give an appreciation, really good appreciation. So let's try that. Even those who are against us and who are just, for lack of a better word, nasty people, they're nasty because they're in a lot of pain and confusion. To even have mercy and tolerance for them as best we can. And say, well, I see that you're like that, and I can put myself in your shoes, but I also hope that you put yourself in my shoes. And if we meet someone that have a different opinion, let's not create a big conflict. Can you agree to disagree? Be gentle and humble, or just let it go if it doesn't work. As best we can, you know. Sometimes I can have a nasty backbiting nature too. I don't like that about me. But sometimes if someone, you know, as it were, instigates or picks a fight with me on a YouTube video, or sometimes I want to say something more fierce from like, suspend, exhale, write what you will. So, anyways, I'm rambling and making the video too long, but there you go. Blessed be, and namaste. I wish you the best success, and feel free to check out my other videos. I do have another book on the way, which is a poetry book, sort of in a Buddhist fashion. I'm not really denominational, but it happens to be sort of the theme of Zen, if you will. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested at all. And other than that, I can only wish you the best success and best self-acceptance, the best happiness, the best, you know, take a risk. Like that lady Olympian said, how did she say it? Do something that scares you once a day, or try to. See what happens. Maybe it's going to be good. Worst comes to worst is you're just going to return back to your sulking self or self-doubting self, or reflecting upon your own beautiful nature and saying, okay, well maybe I'll try again next time. Go for it. It's very possible. Alright? Have a good one, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.